addition to that, we're losing all of the markers of Judeo-Christian morals. God, if you read through the Old Testament, God was, monuments basically were really important to God. Whenever anything significant happened, He liked for them to have a monument for that. He wanted it to be before their eyes, and He wanted them to remember what He had done for them, so that they would constantly, it would be refreshed in their minds. Whenever they crossed over the Jordan River, remember what He had them do?
Put up stones.
12 stones, one for each tribe. And He told them why. I want you to put up one, and take your time, find the biggest stones you can find, and put up these 12 stones, one stone for each tribe, in the middle of the river, so that from this moment on, anytime you come to the river, your children will say, Mommy, what are these stones for? And you'll be able to say, oh, these stones are placed there after God did this great and wonderful thing for us. And He had them do that all the time, put these markers, monuments. And the markers and monuments in our society are gone. They're just totally being torn down. And the best example of that is the Ten Commandments. It's to the point where you cannot show Ten Commandments anywhere because of the separation of church and state that's not in the
They're
Constitution at
talking
all.
about the cross, taking the crosses down, and they said, well, what are we gonna do about Arlington Cemetery, because all
Yeah.
crosses.
Well, it's not very straight anyway.
What?
He's really upset that it's not straight when you go to Arlington Cemetery.
It is
I
not.
think it is.
It is not.
If you look down certain angles, there are like, you can
It's
see
supposed to
lines.
be rows every single angle you look, and it's not.
It's not.
In fact, in the
I've been
Philippines,
there.
their
I've been
Arlington Cemetery they have is much better than the American one.
No, because
Guaranteed.
No, because rows, and then if you look at a different angle, it has like
Yeah, rows
No.
and diagonals, but the ones in Arlington Cemetery is not like that. There's points
Some
where you're
places
looking down the
are.
road and then you see a cross sticking out this way and you see one. It's not right. It's not
It's hard to
geometric.
keep thousands of headstones in
Is
The
it
place.
really always
Filipinos
that
did it. The Filipinos are good
I
at
don't
it.
think they have quite as many as Arlington National.
I don't know.
Cemetery.
I got a video. I showed you it. They got a lot.
Arlington's pretty huge. And there are areas where it's straight. It is.
Yeah, there are areas that it is straight,
It's bitter.
but there's more that. Yeah,
Hey, you know what?
it's America.
It's
It's
been
supposed to be
there
the
for a
best.
while.
Did he do it? Was he the one
Huh?
that?
Right.
No, but if I was there, I would have dig up that cross and put it back in the right way.
Tax dollars at work. Where were we at before we went off on it? Oh,
Sorry.
crosses. Then, nativity scenes. They're trying to remove every marker. So our society is losing any reminder. They don't, in fact, they don't want to be reminded of what God expects of us.
Why are they doing that? What's the point?
Of removing all the markers, like
Yeah,
Ten
why
Commandments.
Deleting Christianity from everything.
Because you can't put all
Because
the
there's a
religious
spirit behind
beliefs.
it.
You can't put all the religious beliefs out there, anyways, because there's so many.
Well, but at school they let Muslims, they let them celebrate Ramadan, and they don't serve them, they serve them special meals. And at one school, and this book has several instances of this, they accidentally, during a certain time, I can't remember when it was, put a ham sandwich on a menu. And Muslims will not eat the ham sandwich. They sued this school for millions of dollars for an accident. They accidentally put ham sandwich.
And they want.
They removed the Three Little Pigs book because it has pigs in it. And pigs are an abomination to Muslims. And they go out of their way to appease different religious groups, but Christians, they don't really care. Because there's so many people that are Christians, it's not seen as an underdog or something that needs to be protected.
Over something like that, they would laugh at us.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, but
Not always.
You see, we're the minority. America's about the minority, not the majority.
well, there are like the Liberty, there's a group that's just like ACLU, but it's
What is ACLU?
American Civil Liberties Union. They're a bunch of attorneys that, under the guise of fighting for the rights of individuals, are fighting to establish a different agenda than the Judeo-Christian ethic. It's called the Judeo-Christian ethic, like because Jews and Christians alike go by the moral code of the Ten Commandments. The Hammurabi Code. Have you ever heard of the Hammurabi
Yes.
Code?
I've heard of it, but
Yes.
I don't know what
Eye
it
for an
is.
eye.
I've been learning about it.
It was established under the Medes and the Persians. It's based on the same principles, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Like, basically do unto others as you would like to have them do unto you. And in the Bible, if you were working and someone caused your tooth to be knocked out, then you got to knock his tooth out.
But it only works within their social
Yeah.
statuses though. It didn't like,
Yeah,
if you were like a peasant
You
and
could
like,
do that to the king. right?
yeah. He bent over and stabbed me with his sword. Took off my arm.
But everyone used to recognize the Judeo-Christian ethic and the Judeo-Christian morals, like marriage. Marriage was the only outlet for sex. Anything outside of that was considered fornication. That's gone. And there are several others. But even until the 1950s, that was pretty much the norm. And then the 60s and 70s came along and turned everything on its head. To where now, no one, the Bible says that men do not like to remember God because it awakens their consciences to the expectations of God. And now, when I know the expectations of God and I recognize that I'm not doing them, that's sin. And now I'm guilty. I have guilt. Now I don't like guilt. So let's get rid of the things that remind me of guilt. So that's why they want to remove it. They want to remove every reminder of God from the public square. And they use this notion of separation of church and state. It's not in the Constitution anywhere. Did you guys know that? Do you guys think that's in the Constitution?
I thought it was until you said that.
It's not in the Constitution. It's in the Federalist Papers.
The Federalist
Not
Papers
Thomas
is not
Jefferson.
the
He meant like. it's
Thomas
not-
Jefferson wrote the Federalist Papers, and he did not. It's nowhere in the Constitution that there will be a separation of church and state. Nowhere.
Well, when he meant.
Maybe that's why you don't hear them talk about the Federalist.
There are
Papers
additional
very much.
papers that Thomas Jefferson and different people wrote as correspondence between like Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson, I believe. And it's just papers that talked about, it gives insight to some of the reasons. Do what?
I thought Alexander Hamilton wrote the Federalist.
I don't think so. But I don't think it was. I don't know. I don't think it was Alexander Hamilton. But anyways, the Federalist Papers shed light on the reasons why they wrote some of the things that they wrote when framing the Constitution. It's kind of like their correspondence as they're developing this document. And so they mentioned the separation of church and state. The reasoning in the Federalist Papers for separation of church and state is because they did not want a government-run religion like they just left in England. But it's common knowledge that most of the states required you to abide by their religion to be a citizen of their state. You couldn't go to Pennsylvania if you weren't a Quaker, period. And that was fine with them. Everyone understood that, and they were okay with it. But they understood that, look, this could be a problem someday, so we've got to get rid of that. We've got to let people worship however they want to worship.
Yeah, it's like they're using it backwards as the way he actually meant it to use.
Yeah,
Right.
Like they wanted to keep the
He meant,
state out of the church, not the church out of the state.
right, they wanted to keep the state from coming into churches and say, this is what you ought to teach, which is what Marxism wants. Marxism wants the state to be the church. Their fear was not that the church would infiltrate the state. If that was their fear, then why did they build a Supreme Court with the 10 Commandments all the way around it? The handles for the doors to enter the Supreme Court is the 2 tables of stone that Moses wrote the law on. You
What
have
are they
to
gonna
grab-
do, redo the Supreme Court?
No, behind them on the wall is the 10 Commandments. I mean, what are you gonna do? It's written engraved in stone behind them.
Tear it all down will be the easiest thing to do.
You can't, and throughout the monuments in Washington D.C., the same is true. So we know that our government was founded on the Judeo-Christian way of life. It's what started our laws. All of our laws, all of them wrote that. All of our laws are based on the law of God. I mean, and Benjamin Franklin constantly said, no nation can be governed by laws that does not acknowledge God. And the more people cease to acknowledge God, the greater control the state will have to have. Because ultimately, it's up to you whether or not you're going to abide by law. And if you don't abide by law, then I have to hire more police officers to enforce laws because you won't abide by them on your own. So the further people drift from God, the more that the state needs to step in and exert control over the people. And that's exactly what's happened in the United States.